What's up, everybody? Brett Okamoto from ESPN, and I am joined today by Michael Chandler, who will, in fact, fight for a UFC lightweight championship on May 15th. He will be fighting Charles Oliveira. Mike, this is something we've been talking about for a while now. Not only you coming over from Bellator into the UFC, you did that. You made a splash debut. Weren't really sure what's next, but here it is, a lightweight title fight, man. How does that sound?
It sounds great, man. A lot of stuff has happened. It all happened very fast. I mean, it seems like I just signed with the UFC not too long ago. But there's been so much hype, so much talk, so much craziness going on that seems like, I think, to a lot of fans, a lot of followers of my career in the UFC, that I've been signed for a long time, but still it's only been a little over half a year. So a lot of stuff has happened, but we're about to capture that gold here in a few weeks.
Well, let's get into that fight first and foremost. But real quick, I did want to ask you. There was some flooding in Nashville. Just want to make sure. Obviously, that's where you live. Are you in Florida right now? And were you anybody impacted by the flooding?
In Florida right now, but no, I haven't heard anybody that I'm close with or friends with. So thank you for asking. But no, my family and mine is safe. So thank you.
Okay, great. So you're in Florida, and what camp has officially begun, or did camp already begin? I mean, where are we at in terms of preparing for this fight?
I didn't have time to prepare. I mean, obviously, as we said, I'm always training. I'm the kind of guy. I'm the kind of guy that I feel like rest is poison for my body. Truthfully, if I got an injury, I need to take a little bit of time off. But there's other things I can do. Letting my body just sit on the couch or sit there and just hang out is not good for me. I think that's why I've had so much longevity. So I'm always training. I'm always in pretty good shape. I'm not always in fight shape, of course, but I'm always in pretty good shape. So I got the phone call. Hunter Campbell called me and said, "Hey, what do you think about Oliveira May 15th for the title?" And I said, "Absolutely." But I was in San Diego on a vacation with my family. We landed back home on Sunday, threw everything in my car on Monday, took off 7 a.m. on Tuesday, drove 13 hours down here to Florida. So it's been a whirlwind. But we're about a week into this, hard, intense training with my team down here in Sanford, and man, it's going great, man. I feel like I haven't lost a step since the last fight, so that's always good.
It wasn't like the case in February where you had a big stake in front of you and they called up and said, "Hey, you want to fight pretty soon?" You had to push the stake away. It wasn't like that, right? Did you get to enjoy your vacation at least a little bit?
No, well, I mean, after that, I mean, when you get the call from the UFC that you're fighting for the UFC title, everything changes, So maybe I was sipping on an adult beverage on vacation. I probably put that down ASAP and said, "Hey, man, it's time to get focused. It's time to, when you talk about getting the opportunity to fight for the UFC title, it's life changing. It's a life changing opportunity with a lot of life changing implications for my wife, for my son, for my family. So sacrifices need to be made. My son knows Daddy's got to work, and man, just 7 weeks away to go from capturing gold."
When did you get that call from Hunter? Do you remember approximately?
I think it was about 48 hours before it actually got announced by this good looking dude from ESPN named Brett Okamoto. But yeah, I think it was a little bit before, and then you're kind of in limbo. You're like, okay, there's always like the little guy inside your head, like, oh, maybe it's not actually happening. Maybe this is all just a big, get your hopes up type of thing, because you don't hear anything for like 24, 36, 48 hours. And then all of a sudden, it broke. And then Hunter and Dana called me, and couldn't be happier. Like I said, threw everything in my vehicle, drove down to Florida. Now it's time to get after it.
Let me ask you this, because basically since your UFC debut in January, the name that I had heard over and over again, and I don't think it was a real secret, I think you were kind of putting it out there as well, is it was Gaethje. It seemed like, that's where the UFC was headed. That's what you wanted. Same date, May 15th. I mean, if you had asked me a couple months ago, I would say I was pretty confident that that was the fight that was going to take place. Was that the same as you? Were you kind of feeling it was Gaethje, or like when did that change? When did it become Charles Oliveira?
I mean, obviously everything changed whenever Khabib actually sat down with the UFC and retired. I think whenever Khabib's name was still in the mix, you're talking about everybody else fighting down here for supremacy who might fight for the title and in a long, long shot possibly fight Khabib for that title, even though we all thought he was probably going to move on. But yeah, I mean, I saw the rumors hit the rumor mill on Twitter and Instagram and all that me and Gaethje were going to fight. I hadn't heard anything necessarily from the UFC that was going to happen. Obviously, Gaethje's always been a name that's been on the other end of the phone when we're talking to the UFC for sure. But the May 15th date for me was something that I was very interested in. I had a couple things I needed to figure out before then, health-wise and whatnot, just to make sure I was going to be able to make that May 15th date. I was. And then all of a sudden, yeah, everything changed whenever they called me and said, you know, out of the blue, hey, vacant lightweight title, you and Charles Oliveira, and Khabib's retiring for sure. And then I said, absolutely, say no more. Tell me where to be, when to be there, and I'll be there.
Real quick, did you have any kind of ping of disappointment when you heard for sure Khabib ain't coming back? I think we all knew it, but when it was like they actually told you you're not gonna get a chance to fight that guy, was there any disappointment, or had you mentally moved on from him?
No, I mean, I think there was always that small chance. I mean, truthfully, you know, when you get into this sport, you want the biggest fights, you want the biggest stages, and you want the biggest challenges athletically. There is no secret. Khabib is the biggest challenge, the hardest puzzle to solve. Even for a guy like myself, who I fancy myself a pretty darn good wrestler, he's still an animal when it comes to the ground game, the sambo, the top pressure, just mauling people. So that was something I wanted to experience. That was something I wanted to take that challenge. But you know, I think it was wishful thinking on everybody's part that he was going to come back. I think it was a foregone conclusion. But you know, I mean, even me, Khabib was retired whenever I called him out on my post-fight speech. You know, so and I do get from the sentiment from a lot of people, hey, why are we still talking about this guy after he's retired? You know, I think right now we say, hey, he was a phenomenal ambassador for the lightweight division. He was exciting. He was honorable in a lot of things that he did. He was a great champion, but now it's time to move on. So there's still a little bit of that disappointment, but from here on out, it's going to be my division when I beat Charles Oliveira May 15th. And then, you know, when I continue to look spectacular, as Khabib said months ago, maybe he gets that itch. Maybe he doesn't. Either way, I'm going to be the champion, and he's going to have to try to come take my belt.
Well, let's talk about that fight ahead of you and Charles Oliveira. I mean, you've done so many interviews now, and we've talked about just about every option. So you've talked about this guy before, but now as you know that is your next opponent, you start to dig in and, you know, kind of sink your teeth into him as an opponent. What do you see there? What's challenging? What do you need to prepare for in Charles Oliveira?
Oliveira is a tall test. You know, I mean, he's a guy who's on a huge win streak. You know, when you got a guy who's able to string together as many fights as he has in a row, as many wins as he has in a row in the UFC, the Shark Tank that is the lightweight division, there's a certain amount, a high level of confidence that comes with that. So, of course, I'm coming off of a big win, kicking down the door during my debut and knocking out number 5 Dan Hooker. But Charles Oliveira is on a 7-8 fight win streak or whatever it is. So he's just as confident as I am. He's skilled everywhere. He's very dangerous in the submission game. He's very dangerous on the ground. His striking is ever improving. You know, more than anything, I'm just going to put together a great game plan. I'm going to be exactly who I am. There's not a lot that I need to change. You know, everybody always asks, hey, you know, they even said, hey, now that you're in the UFC, are you changing things? Hey, now that you're fighting for the UFC title, what's different about this training camp? But the thing about it is I've been living the championship lifestyle, living the life as if I'm fighting the number 1 guy in the world. Like everything is on the line since I got into this sport 12 years ago. So for me, I don't change anything. I'm excited to compete against him. He is a tough, salty veteran with a ton of UFC fights. I think he's the perfect opponent for me in a lot of ways. I think I go out there, I get my hands on him. I think he'll know from the first exchange that he's dealing with a different guy. Just like a lot of people said, Dan Hooker didn't look himself. Dan Hooker didn't look like the Dan Hooker of old that we've seen. I think that's a testament to what happens to a guy whenever they stand in front of me and I'm locked inside of a cage with them. They're going to be on their back foot. Charles Oliveira is going to be no different. He's going to be on his back foot. He's going to be overreacting, and I'm going to land shots, pick him up, put him down if I have to, but most likely, hopefully, knock him out in the first or second round.
You know, you mentioned his striking is ever evolving. Can you kind of talk about what you see in his striking? Because yeah, that has been something that you know, every time he fights now that we're talking about it, like, hey, this guy's just not a submission ace. And it seems like he has kind of, you know, you and Poirier and Connor, you're very boxing based. You know, what do you see in him? Like, when you would how would you characterize his striking?
I think 2 things. I think he uses his attributes very well. He's long, you know, he's 5'11", dang near 6 foot. So he's got long legs, long arms. So he uses that reach really well. He throws those kicks out to stay at distance. He throws very good, sharp, straight punches straight down the middle. So whether it's a jab or whether it's a straight right hand, he's A, going to stick you with it, and B, keep you at bay with it. So obviously with me, you see the way that I constantly come forward, moving my head, changing angles, high, low, having to get around that kind of that long arm and leg that he's got coming at you. And then secondly, I think you just see confidence. I mean, when a guy gets confidence, he gets more versatile, he gets more flowing. flowing with his strikes. He strings together more combinations. And I think that's what you see. Charles Oliveira is just, I think, a guy who was, 90% jiu-jitsu based, and all of a sudden, man, wait a second, I'm starting to stick people and starting to piece them up with my hands and feet. So you see him start to do it more and more and string together combinations, similar to when a wrestler gets into mixed martial arts. At first, you see them just shooting, and then later on, as they start to evolve, similar to myself, you start seeing them land a combination, then a takedown right away, not just the takedown without the punches. And that's kind of what Charles Oliveira has done. And he's a tall test. He is a tough, salty veteran, and I can't wait to go compete against him.
I want to ask you to follow up on something I've heard you say before, and that is that because he's had some weight issues in the past and he's missed weight, that you look at that, and obviously you're looking at it from a lens of you've cut weight your whole life in wrestling. You're very familiar with the process. That when he stopped cutting weight and he accepted the fact that he wasn't going to make weight, that he gave up on himself, and that could also translate to a fight. And I wanted to ask you about that a little bit more, because I personally would tend to give him a little bit of a pass on that, because that was a 145. He hasn't missed at 155. And, I've also seen guys who have missed weight and then gone on to have, obviously great careers. Henry Cejudo comes to mind. He missed weight a couple of times at 125 and then was able to win a championship. But with you, again, as your perspective and knowing what it's like to be sitting in that sauna and feel like you can't cut off the extra few pounds, can you just expand on that, on why you think that might be evidence of a weakness in him?
Well, I just think it's an evidence of a weakness or lack of stick-to-itiveness. I mean, your word is your bond. When you sign your name to a contract saying, I am going to render a service, and the UFC is going to render their service, and we enter into an agreement, you say, I can make 145, I can make 155. I'm going to show up. I'm going to fight 5 rounds. I'm going to fight 3 rounds. I'm going to give my best, put my best foot forward. So from a just a clear business standpoint, you're not coming through on your end of the bargain, which I don't like. I mean, I've made weight hundreds of times, wrestling and now mixed martial arts, hundreds of times, and cut thousands and thousands of pounds of weight. If you just count them all going up and down and up and down, I guarantee you I'm close to 10 pounds heavier than Charles Oliveira. I was consistently 190 between these 2 training camps. I guarantee you Charles Oliveira is not that big, not that heavy. I guarantee my body fat is lower than his. So if anybody is going to have trouble making weight, it's going to be me having more trouble making weight. But there's a difference between the discipline to be able to go from 190 down to 155 during an 8-week period, and the hard work that you put in, the emphasis that you put in to your nutrition, and the emphasis you put into your supplementation, your rest, and your training regimen. I just think you miss weight that many times. And also, I mean, I also was alluding to the fact, you look at the Paul Felder fight, he tapped due to strikes. You look at numerous fights, he just kind of goes, if he can't impose his will on you, there comes a point where he looks at you and decides, okay, you've won this one. I'm done. I'm going to go collect half a paycheck and I'm going to go home. I think there's going to be a moment or multiple moments in this fight where he's going to see it in my eyes. He's going to feel the power that I possess. He's going to feel that I only get better. And he's fast, on a fast journey straight down to panicking. And I just think that's what's going to happen. Could be wrong, but we shall see. So I do think it's a lack of discipline. If you can't make weight, we're all do it. We're all professionals. Luckily for him, it's 155. So just keep your weight down and make weight. So we got a legitimate championship May 15th.
Ever since you signed with the UFC, we put out these predictions of, oh man, like a splash debut, who's it going to be? It's going to be this guy. It's going to be that guy. You were back up for a world title fight. We didn't think it was going to be Dan Hooker. And then quite frankly, we wouldn't have really thought, if you had told me when you came up from Bellator, you were going to fight Dan Hooker and Charles Oliveira, I did not see that was going to be the path that it took. And I wonder, and I'm guessing that you're going to say, it doesn't matter. When you got gold around your waist, it's going to be gold and it's going to mean everything. But from a guy who was in Bellator for a long time and doing very well over there, obviously, and you were ranked highly, but the question always was, how would Mike do against this guy, against that guy, against this guy? Do you see a scenario in which you actually win a UFC championship and you're still dealing with that? Like this guy didn't fight, Khabib retired, he didn't fight Gaethje, he didn't fight Poirier. Like, is there a scenario in which you could still be dealing with that? Or are you confident that, you're going to make a statement and that belt's going to be looked as legitimate?
Well, I think luckily Charles Oliveira is number 3 in the world, so we can't understate that. There is a plethora of examples in the past where a guy who was ranked, higher or lower, 4, 5, 6, 7, got a title shot, and that person became a legitimate title holder. But I think it's part of it. Yeah, this is it. This is only going to be my second fight in the UFC. I welcome all the criticism, and I also welcome those people to change their minds, like thousands and millions of people have done over the last couple months, where people send me a message and say, "Hey, man, I really didn't like you, the way that the UFC was pumping you and the way that you were confident. I was trying my best just not to like you, but man, you're growing on me." It's going to happen to a lot of people, and a lot of people aren't going to like me, and that's fine. That's sports. But yeah, if you would have told me Dan Hooker than Charles Oliveira, I would have said, no, there's no way. There's got to be a Gaethje in there. There's got to be a Poirier in there. But the good thing is I win the title, and then I'm guaranteed my next fight is going to be Conor or Poirier or Gaethje. We'll see. I mean, I think Gaethje's put himself in a tough spot because he needs a win before he gets a title shot. So I think he's got to fight somebody before he fights me. So most likely I'm fighting Conor or Poirier next, whoever wins that fight. But even then, we just keep the train rolling, and we keep on moving forward. And I think Charles Oliveira has proven himself. He's number 3 in the world for a reason, and he's a great guy to fight and win the title against, because it's only even much bigger fights after this.
You win the title in May. Poirier, McGregor, they fight in July, so you make your first title defense in the fall. Hopefully by then, we're things seem to be trending in the right direction in terms of this, what's going on in the world. It can be in a full arena, it's a big, massive event. You defending your title for the first time against who? Who do you think it is? If you had to close your eyes and say, I'm standing in Madison Square Garden or T-Mobile Arena, and the guy across the octagon from me, my first title defense is who?
I think it's Conor. I actually watched the detail thing that they do on Daniel Cormier narrates it and kind of breaks down the fight. I watched it, and I think there's just very few little things that Conor can do to win that fight. I think it's Conor McGregor. I think it's sometime later this fall or winter. But also that's probably wishful thinking. But I mean, if it's Dustin Poirier, I'm excited about that opportunity as well. I think I match up better against Dustin Poirier than I do a lot of guys in the division. That's why I called for that fight right away, and he said no, and Gaethje said no, and Ferguson said no. Every single one of these guys has said no. So once I have the title, everyone's going to say yes. So we will see. I think if I put my money on it, I think it's going to be Conor. I think he makes some adjustments, very small, minor adjustments, and he gets the win in that trilogy. At least that's what I'm believing, and that's what my kind of my mind says. Who I think is going to win that fight.
You know what? I think I've only got one more for you, man, and that is that we all know that you're not around for a long time. You're around for a good time. But has anybody asked how long are you going to be around? What is the exit strategy? When you keep saying that, I'm not going to be around for a long time, it does beg the question of how long are you going to be here for?
I think it's just a testament to reminding people, like, I'm not some spring chicken who came in. I mean, it also plays to the fact that, hey, the UFC knows who I am from years ago when I fought Eddie and fought Benson and fought, like, I've had these big fights, not as big as the UFC fights that I'm in now, but they were big fights, and I've always been a legitimate guy in the lightweight division. The fighters know who I am. The fighters, and I think that's a testament to why a lot of guys have said no to fight me. They're like, why would I fight the new guy, the outsider, the dark horse who's coming in? So, I mean, I think that was just reminding people, hey, I'm not here for a long time. I'm not coming into this organization as a 24-year-old guy who's got a decade and a half ahead of me. But man, if you would have told me, I'll be 35 next month. If you would have told me that at 34 and almost 35 years old, that I would feel this good, I'm telling you right now, I don't feel a day older than 25. I feel faster. My body feels phenomenal. I feel in better shape. I feel and look better physically. And I've just been living my life right for this, this entire career of 12 years. So I always said 35 was probably going to be when I was going to be done, but there is no way that's happening. I could see myself fighting until 40. And obviously that happens, that all depends on the wars that I'm about to get in, which I welcome all the wars. I can't wait to get in these wars with these guys. And it all starts May 15th when I go out there and beat Charles Oliveira.
Okay. So that's 6 years, man. So maybe you're here for a medium length.
I'm not here for a long time. I'm here for a medium length time. A normal amount of time. So,
well, I got one more now, actually, because listening to you talk, and you have had a long career up until this point. I wonder, finally getting that chance at the UFC title, is this your toughest fight? When you look at Charles Oliveira, is he the toughest matchup? Is he that scary monster at the end of the video game? Is he that guy?
No, I think Dan Hooker. Was a tougher test, and that's not me predicting that I'm going to knock Oliveira out in 2 minutes because I knocked out Hooker in 2.5. I think if you look at the past fights, you look at the mentality of, you look at the Poirier versus Hooker fight, the Felder versus Hooker fight. I mean, the guy is absolutely unbreakable. I was going to have to separate him from consciousness to beat him. And luckily I was able to do that. Charles Oliveira is not bad. I think Charles Oliveira is a tough competitor. But I think Dan Hooker has a lot bigger and better attributes. But I would say Dan Hooker was a tougher test, but that is not me looking past Charles Oliveira. I think when you got the UFC title on the line, it's in Houston, Texas, in front of 20,000 fans, and everybody's starving to watch live action fights. It's the biggest opportunity. I always thought Madison Square Garden was going to be the epitome of what I've done in my fight career, but this is it. The Toyota Center in Houston, Texas, 20,000 fans, when everybody's been cooped up wanting to go watch fights, man. And it's a huge opportunity. I think the monster at the end of the end of the tunnel is that just the opportunity. The octagon is going to feel and look a little bit different, and it's kind of like I said, whenever this training camp started, the sun rose a little bit different this morning. I've started this is my 28th training camp, but it's a little bit different this time. The aura in the room when I'm training is a little bit different this time. So it's an awesome opportunity, man. And the sky's the limit after this. And I'm just going to be excited to talk to you after a win on May 15th.
I'm excited for it too, man. Best of luck with the 28th training camp. Thank you for taking the time to speak with us. And we're looking forward to it. May 15th. Thank you, Michael.
Thanks, Brett.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.